Hello, everyone. This is another study of Oahspe.com podcast video for YouTube. Copyright for YouTube. Today's subject will be organic molecules and hydrocarbons in nebula. And I am on the study of Oahspe.com page, More Science, Astronomy, Physics. And it says, Oahspe, Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, Chapter 11, Verse 6. There is no such thing as separating science and religion. To obtain knowledge and to do good, these are valuable. Oahspe Book of Knowledge, Part 1, Verse 30. Tae said, I will reason with thee, Jehovah, for all I know shall be based on science and truth. From thine own perfection am I inspired to this end, and my talents shall be strengthened by pursuing the exact sciences of all known truths. Neither will I put away mine own judgment, nor accept for truth that which is at variance with thy established laws. And clicking on the link I provided for those verses. Here's part 2, chapter 2, verse 6. Actually, it's part 1, verse 30. So there's part 1, verse 30. And that's where Tay or Tai said, and so on or so forth. Talents shall be strengthened by pursuing and learning physics, astronomy, mathematics, physical anthropology, neuroscience, and genetics. Definition of exact science. A science as physics, chemistry, or astronomy, whose laws are capable of accurate quantitative expression. And click on the link that I provided for the definition of exact science, Merriam-Webster. And there you have it right there. Oahspe, San Diego, California, Science Connection. Study of Oahspe.com author's experience. 1. 1983. My high school science teacher said he had seen excerpts of Oahspe in science journals. 2. 1983. My friend from junior high school and high school said he had seen that book before at a science fair. Speaking of Oahspe. Number 3. 2014. Friend of my mother went to city library and asked for the Oahspe book. And she, the librarian, said, quote, what do you want that with that book? Only scientists check that book out. Scrolling down. Page 192 of The Amazing Universe by Friedman says, newborn stars shines beyond a swirling cloud of organic and inorganic molecules coalescing into a planet. Astronomers have detected such molecules in many areas of the galaxy, leading them to speculate that the same chemical processes that led to life on Earth may have occurred elsewhere. And I put an asterisk there, and I put a note to that right there saying Oahspe said life on Earth did occur elsewhere in the universe. Oahspe Book of Safa, M. Hawk, verse 25 says, angels, in brackets I put men, once lived on other corporal, in brackets physical worlds. So once again, from the Book of Safa, containing scientific knowledge about life in the universe or other types of scientific knowledge. Now, as I was back to where I was reading, Oahspe Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5. Jehovah stores the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place, the substance of the vegetable kingdom, and even so of the substance of the animal kingdom. For he hath places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. These that thou sawest are the Agi, the Jaya, and the nebula, or nebulae, and amidst them in places there is Simu also. Oahspe says of Simu, gelatin, the preceding substance of the living. Oahspe plate 39 says, the earth in Simu. Jehovah saith, in the time of Simu, I brought the earth into Agi and Jaya, and darkness was upon the face of the earth for the space of 3,000 years. And yet for other 3,000 years, half darkness covered all the land and water. Oahspe says of Agi, semi-dark, less than nebula. Oahspe says of Jaya, pertaining to nebulae, but less dense. Page 82 of Concise Book of Astronomy says, dust clouds and life. Radio astronomers have discovered that many of the signals from these dust clouds are caused by molecules. The detection of certain radio signals from the clouds tells us which molecules are in the clouds. All life on Earth is based on the structure of one huge molecule named DNA. The molecule carries in code form instructions on how to duplicate itself. The molecular assembly line uses simpler components such as sugar and protein to build up DNA. These substances can be manufactured from even simpler molecules. In the dust clouds of space, the simplest molecules needed to start the assembly of the complex substances exist in great profusion. Perhaps Perhaps the first living things on Earth grew from these elementary molecules. It is within the densest clouds that new stars and planets are born. When the Earth first condensed, it may have been enriched with life molecules from a cosmic dust cloud. The Concise Book of Astronomy in 1978 contained information about the relationship of nebulae and DNA with life on Earth. But in 1881, 97 years earlier, Oahspe contained almost the same information about nebulae and Simu with life on Earth. And I have a link here called Interstellar Clouds and Organic Molecules. Clicking on that link. Okay, I may have to update that link. Okay, waiting for this website to load. And this was from a website from the dailygalaxy.com. And it says, did life begin in a bubble nebula? May 24th, 2010. Did DNA-based life begin in nebula and interstellar clouds? Here it says on the website, interstellar molecular clouds appear to serve as stellar nurseries for building complex molecules, producing sugars, alcohols, ethers, and quinones, which also absorb UV and other types of radiation which would be destructive to amino acids. However, at the same time, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus are continually irradiated by ions, and which could generate complex organic molecules, carbon grains, oxides, and even proteins. Within a nebular cloud, complex organic molecules can be provided all the ingredients necessary for building more complex molecular structures, including amino acids and proteins, which can be combined to create additional life-related structures, including DNA. Even energy is supplied. And it goes on to say the combination of hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, cyanide, and several other elements could possibly create adenine, which is a DNA base whereas oxygen and phosphorus could later. Okay, what the heck? Whereas oxygen and phosphorus could ladder DNA-based pairs together. Therefore, the building blocks for DNA may also Therefore, the building blocks for DNA may have also been generated within interstellar clouds. Thus, DNA would become part of this molecular protein amino acid complex. Therefore, interstellar environments may have served as nuclear wombs of life. Joseph and Skilled, 2010. So anyway, you can read the rest of that if you want from the link that I provide on the studyofOSP.com website. And that link was Interstellar Clouds and Organic Molecules, and it says May 24, 2010, did DNA-based life begin in nebula and interstellar clouds? And it gives you evidence for that very real possibility. October 11th, 2005. Pretty major news confirmed. A team of NASA exobiology researchers revealed today organic chemicals that play a crucial role in the chemistry of life are common in space. Our work shows a class of compounds that is critical to biochemistry is prevalent throughout the universe, said Douglas Hudgens, an astronomer at NASA's Ames Research Center, Moffett Field, California. He is principal author of a study detailing the team's findings that appears in the October 10th issue of the Astrophysical Journal. And I have a link to that called Organic Chemicals and the Chemistry of Life Are Common in Space. Click on that link, and it takes to a nasa.gov website. And there it is. NASA discovers life's building blocks are common in space. Here they say much of the chemistry of life, including DNA, requires organic molecules that contain nitrogen, said team member Louis Alamandola, an astrophysicist at Ames. And you can read the rest of that from my website with the link that I provide. And going back. So there are scientific facts and evidence that backs up what Oahspe was saying in 1881. And let me scroll back. As it said, as I read before, Oahspe Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5. Jehovah stores the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place, the substance of the vegetable kingdom, and even so the substance of the animal kingdom. For he hath places in the firmament, firmament meaning sky, of heaven for all of them. These that thou sawest are the Ajay, the Jaya, and the nebula. Amidst them in places there is Simu also, and the nebulae, and amidst them in places there is Simu also. For he hath places in the firmament of heaven for all of them, it says in Oahspe. And here it says, to the Mayans, the star clouds that form the Milky Way were seen as the tree of life, where all life came from. And I translate this as nebulous Simuan firmament, regions of space. Because OSP used the words Simuan firmament. And that would be equal to what the Mayans believed as the star clouds that form the Milky Way. And they believed that that was the tree of life where all life came from. The tree of life where all life came from. So there would be a picture right there, an astronomy picture of a Simuan firmament or a nebula, dust cloud in space, interstellar cloud, which contains these organic molecules that scientists have discovered that make up DNA, which would be the preceding substance of the living, in the words of Oahspe, contained in space, in nebula. Now, clicking on the link I provided for the information about the Mayans and the star clouds, and it says Maya astronomy. Now, we know the Mayans were advanced when it came to calendars and cycles and astronomy. But the Maya also, and when it came to mathematics too, but the Maya also believed that the star clouds of the Milky Way galaxy was the tree of life from which all life came from, which is very similar or the same thing as what was written in Oahspe. Now, does that mean that John Newborough copied what he wrote, what he typed in Oahspe from the Mayans? No, not necessarily. It just means that those are two different sources at two different times that validate each other. Here it says right here, the Milky Way. The Milky Way was much venerated by the Maya, or the Mayans. They called it the world tree. Let's see what else they say. Right here. The Milky Way was called the Waka Chan. Waka means six or erect. Chan equals Chan or Khan means four. Serpent or sky. The world tree was erect when Sagittarius was well over the horizon. At this time, the Milky Way rose up from the horizon and climbed overhead into the north. The star clouds that formed the Milky Way were seen as the tree of life where all life came from. So there you have it. There is ancient Mayan knowledge that agrees with what's written in Oahspe. Now, right here, it says scientists find mega oil field 1,300 light years away. 6 December 2012. Have our wishes been answered? Scientists have found an oil field which contains 200 times more hydrocarbons than there is water on the whole of the earth. Time to wave peak oil goodbye forever. But before you do, I should probably inform you of the tiny hiccup in any plan to develop this field. It is around 1,300 light years away. The scientists work at the Max Planck Institute in Germany, and using the 30-meter telescope of the Institute for Radio Astronomy, they discovered a vast cloud of hydrocarbons within the Horsehead Nebula galaxy in the Orion constellation. Upon discovery of the cloud, IRAM astronomer Viviana Guzman declared that the nebula contains 200 times more hydrocarbons than the total amount of water on Earth. Just for those of you curious as to exactly how many barrels of oil that roughly equates to, here you go. 155 quintillion, 238 quadrillion, 95 trillion, 238 billion, 95,250,000, or that number right there, barrels, in barrels, which is what I just read in numerical form. Now, like me, you might be wondering how oil, which is supposedly produced from organic matter buried millions of years ago, could possibly exist in space. Well, it turns out that these hydrocarbons were likely created by the fragmentation of giant carbonaceous molecules called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are produced during the death of a star. There is even a theory that molecules such as these could have served as the first organic compounds for creating life. By James Burgess of oilprice.com. And I have a link to that from oilprice.com /latest energy news /world news /scientists find mega oil field 1,300 light years away. And clicking on the link, here it is, brings up the website. And there you have it. And you can read that for yourself from the link that I have on studyofoahspe.com. And here it says, weird. Scientists find biggest oil field ever, 1,300 light years away. Upon discovery of the cloud, IRAM astronomer Viviana Guzman declared that the nebula contains 200 times more hydrocarbons than the total amount of water on Earth. And basically, it's the same information, just from another website. And it says here, I have a question. How is there oil in space if oil is formed by millions of years of organic matter buried underground? Well, the hydrocarbons were likely created by the fragmentation of giant carbonaceous molecules called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are produced during the death of a star. Same information I read before, just on a different website. And I'll click on that link. Anyway, you can read that information, and I have the link on my website. But it says right here, Oahspe, Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5. Behold, O man, as a farmer soweth corn in one place, and wheat in another, and roots in another, and flax, everything in a separate place, even so doth Jehovah store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place, the substance of the iron in one place, the substance of the stones in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and even so the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils and sand, for he hath places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. I'll read that again. And the oils and sand, for he hath places in the firmament for all of them. Places in the firmament for oils for all of them. These that thou sawest are the Agi and the Jaya and the nebulae, and amidst them in places there is Simu also. Let no man say, yonder is hydrogen only, and yonder oxygen only. The divisions of the substances of his creations are not as man would make them. All the elements are to be found not only in places near at hand, but in distant places also. This is from Oahspe. So when scientists say that they discovered oil and hydrocarbons 1,300 light years away, this relates to what Oahspe said in 1881. They discovered this in, let's see, what was the date it was discovered? Well, it's got a date on that, December 2012. And that's other website says, yeah, December 2012. So in December 2012, that's when they discovered these oil fields, 1,300 light years away. In Oahspe in 1881, 131 years earlier, said that reading again what it said about oils right here. The substance of the animal kingdom and the oils and sand, for he hath places in the firmament of heaven, meaning the sky, or in outer space, for all of them. And Oahspe went on to say all the elements are to be found not only in places near at hand, but in distant places also. So distant places would mean 1,300 light years away, where scientists have discovered these oil fields in space. Inside of nebula, it says the nebula contains 200 times more hydrocarbons than the total amount of water on Earth. And the nebula there pertains to what Oahspe had said about the Agi. These that those stars are Agi, Jaya, and Nebula. So there you go. And I have a link to sacredtext.com and Oahspe And you can read it for yourself. Right there it says, verse 6. It says right here, it says, so was there a time when the earth passeth a region in the firmament, when sand and oil are rained upon it and covered up, and gases bound and sealed up for the coming generations of man. So this would refer to a future time when men would use these hydrocarbons or oil, and it came from space, from the firmament. Oahspe is saying, which scientists have discovered that this is a scientific fact that was written in Oahspe 131 years before it was discovered in 1881, and they discovered it in 2012. Oahspe said, so was there a time when the earth passed a region in the firmament. So the earth travels and it reaches this region in space, in the firmament, in the Milky Way galaxy, when sand and oil are rained upon it and covered up, and gases bound and sealed up for the coming generations of men. So there you have it. Another scientific fact written in Oahspe hundreds of years before man discovered it. How could John Ballou Newborough have known that? And I went on to write here on studyofOSP.com. Oahspe had knowledge of. So there you have it. Another studyofOSP.com podcast video for YouTube. Stay tuned for the next studyofOSP.com podcast video for YouTube. Thank you for tuning in, watching, and listening. And goodbye for now.